Welcome back to Bad Things in History, where sometimes deadly is delicious. The invention of agriculture is responsible for creating the modern world we inhabit today. The reason why is obvious and simple. People need food. Sometimes the process of creating sustenance for society brings forth new and interesting problems. Instead of feeding the hungry, food can kill. Today we are going to tell you several stories about food-related mishaps that ended the lives of unsuspecting victims. Nottingham Cheese Riot. The Goose Fair is an old and cherished tradition in Nottingham, England. Nobody is sure exactly when it started, but the fair became a yearly event around 1,000 years ago. The Goose Fair was attended by farmers and merchants from all over the countryside. They brought geese and other livestock animals to the gathering. Additionally, the Nottingham Goose Fair was well known for selling cheese. Farmers had a very bad year in 1766. The harvest was much less than expected. People knew that food shortages were coming, and anxiety about it began to grow throughout England. As the Goose Fair approached, merchants purchased all the food items they could find. Then it was sold at inflated prices to increase profit. At the same time, people who lived in towns were concerned about starving, and they feared that merchants would buy all the food and take it somewhere else. On October 2, 1766, during the Goose Fair, a group of merchants bought a large quantity of cheese. Before they could take it home and sell it, the merchants were surrounded by a group of angry young men. The angry mob demanded the merchants share the cheese with Nottingham instead of disappearing with it. Soon violence broke out all over the city. Shop windows were broken and cheese was stolen. Much of the cheese was shaped like wheels, so people began rolling cheese down the streets. The mayor of Nottingham was knocked over by one of them. Some of the residents started setting up roadblocks. Merchants who tried to leave were searched and their cheese was taken. Boats that attempted to travel home with their wares were also stopped, searched, and deprived of their cheese. The British Army had to restore order. As they attempted to control the raging crowd, soldiers accidentally shot a farmer. They thought he was looting, but he was just trying to guard his pile of cheese. After several days, order was restored in Nottingham. Eventually, food shortages and increasing prices caused additional riots in other parts of England as well. London Beer Flood. Beer has always been an important feature of life in England, both in the past and today. But producing large amounts of liquid can be a risky endeavor. Sir Henry Meux was born in London on May 8, 1770. Henry's father owned the largest brewery in the city, but Henry didn't like his father. So in 1809, he bought his own facility called the Horseshoe Brewery. Henry wanted to ensure that he could produce an incredibly large amount of beer, so he built an extremely large wooden vessel to hold the brew. It could hold 18,000 barrels of fermenting liquid. The backside of the brewery faced a poor part of the city. It was also a popular hangout for thieves and prostitutes. On October 17, 1814, Henry's beer would put a stop to crime. It would also end the lives of innocent victims. Around 4:30 p.m., the wooden vessel that held the beer suddenly burst into pieces. As the liquid poured out of its container, it struck another nearby vat and released its contents as well. Over 300,000 gallons of beer poured into the back wall of the brewery. The wall collapsed and a wave of beer nearly 15 feet tall washed down the street. 2 houses were destroyed immediately. Several children were killed by either drowning or being crushed under debris. 8 people died in the destruction caused by the tidal wave of beer. An investigation determined that the accident was an act of God. The Horseshoe Brewery kept making beer until 1921. Great Mill Disaster. Cadwallader C. Washburn was born in what is today the state of Maine on April 22, 1818. He served as a general for the Union Army during the Civil War. Washburn was also a senator and a governor for the state of Wisconsin. Most importantly, he was a businessman. In 1874, Washburn opened a mill in Minneapolis. It was the largest building in the city and would also become the largest flour mill in the world. By 1878, the mill would employ 200 people, making it the largest employer in the city. This incredibly large flour mill was also full of dust. Processing flour resulted in particles dispersing throughout the large building. At the time, nobody knew that it was a ticking time bomb. On the evening of May 2, 1878, the day shift changed into the night shift. 14 workers entered the building expecting to spend their night milling flour, but their plans would be rudely interrupted. At around 7 p.m., the flour dust caught on fire and caused 3 separate explosions. The 14 employees were killed in the blast. Huge chunks of granite were sent flying and were later found almost a mile away. People as far as 10 miles away could hear the explosion. Many thought it was an earthquake. Washburn may have owned the largest flour mill in the city, but it wasn't the only one. However, the explosions started a fire which then destroyed 2 other flour mills. Washburn traveled to Minneapolis and swore he would rebuild the mill, making it safer. By 1880, there was a new building with dust collectors and improved ventilation. The mill would continue to operate until 1965. The building was destroyed in a fire in 1991. The Great Molasses Flood. Although molasses is a tasty addition to many cherished foods, it can be used for other purposes. Allowing it to ferment can produce ethanol, which is used to make alcoholic beverages. In the past, this volatile compound could also be used to make explosives for the military. The Purity Distilling Company was in Boston, Massachusetts. In 1915, it constructed a large vat to hold molasses. The vat was 50 feet tall and had a capacity of 2.3 million gallons. On January 14, 1919, a ship delivered a fresh load of molasses to the distillery. It was poured into the tank on top of colder molasses that was solidified. The next day, on January 15th, the weather was unusually warm. As the warming molasses expanded, the tank became unable to contain it. At 12:30 p.m., the container finally failed. Witnesses would later claim that they heard a sound like thunder when it happened. Molasses is 40% denser than water. This means that it contains more energy than water. So as it poured out of the tank, the molasses created a wave 25 feet high that was moving at 35 miles per hour. It destroyed buildings and people as it pushed through the streets. The Boston Post gave the following account of the disaster. Molasses, waist deep, covered the street and swirled and bubbled about the wreckage. Here and there struggled a form, whether it was animal or human being was impossible to tell. Only in upheaval, thrashing about in the sticky mass, showed where any life was. Horses died like so many flies on sticky fly paper. The more they struggled, the deeper in the mess they were ensnared. Human beings, men and women, suffered likewise. After the wave of molasses poured through the streets, the weather changed again, which dropped the temperature. People became trapped in the sticky substance and couldn't be rescued quickly. Several suffocated while waiting for help. The damage was so severe that rescue efforts took several days. In the end, the disaster injured 150 people. 21 were killed. Also, an unknown number of horses were swept away, never to be seen again. For the rest of the year, almost everything in Boston was sticky. The harbor was brown for months. Additionally, molasses had collected in homes all over the city. Supposedly, the odor remained for years. Survivors filed one of the first class action lawsuits in United States history. Courts ruled that the distillery had to pay damages of $628,000, which would be equivalent to $9.82 million today. Point Saint-Esprit mass poisoning. Point Saint-Esprit is a small town in southern France. In 1951, it became known for a food-related mishap that sickened and killed. During World War II, occupied France had a government monopoly on the sale of flour. All farmers had to sell their grains to the government. The government then decided who got the flour, when, and how much. After 1945, rules were relaxed slightly, but the French government still allocated most of the flour. This meant that Most of the bakers had no say in the quality of the flour they received. Maurice Meux was one of the many millers who processed grains into flour. He then provided his product to bakers. Around August 9th, there were complaints from towns all over southern France. They said that people who ate bread became sick with vomiting and headaches. All of those who experienced illness ate flour that came from Maurice. On August 16th, the 2 doctors in Pointe-Saint-Esprit suddenly became overwhelmed, their offices filled with patients complaining of vomiting and chills. This soon escalated to convulsions and hallucinations. The situation escalated over the next several days. On August 24th, a man suddenly believed he was an airplane. He died after jumping from a roof. An 11-year-old boy tried to strangle his mother. One of the doctors would call this evening the apocalyptic night. 7 people died during the mass poisoning event. Over 250 were affected directly by consuming the tainted bread. An investigation found that Maurice had made a deal with a baker. The baker brought his own grains to be milled into flour. It was discovered that some of those grains were not wheat, but rye. When rye becomes infected with ergot fungus, it then produces chemicals that have a similar effect to LSD. Some of those who ate the bread hallucinated because of the contaminated rye. Later investigations suggested that they may have also been exposed to harmful levels of mercury and possibly other species of toxic fungus. Maurice and the baker with whom he dealt were found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. The hazards of ketchup. Food production still kills people today. Usually it's those creating the food that suffer the consequences. Lucknow, India has a factory which produces ketchup. On July 7th, 2010, a worker was standing on a ladder tending to a massive vat of fermented vegetables. She suddenly fell into the container. Her 5 co-workers rushed to her rescue. They dived into the vat hoping to perform a daring rescue. Instead, all 6 of those who entered the container died. The fermenting vegetables emitted toxic fumes. All of those who plunged into the liquid were soon rendered unconscious by the vapors. The mixture was also hot and simmering, so after passing out, the victims started to slowly cook. The factory owner was arrested for not doing more to prevent the disaster. If you want to know more about how horrible this kind of death is, we suggest a previous episode called Execution by Boiling. Whether it's due to panic, incompetence, or bad luck, that which sustains us can end our lives. What do you think about these food disasters from throughout history? Is it just the price we pay for not starving? Or is there a more important lesson to be learned? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and watch what you eat. We want you to stay healthy so you can stick around and keep watching. It would be great if you help our channel grow. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching Bad Things in History.